The Type Zhongzheng rifle, also known as the Chiang Kai-shek Jiang Jieshi Rifle, Generalissimo Rifle, and Type 24 after the Chinese Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek, was a Chinese-made copy of the German Mauser M1924, the forerunner of the Karabiner 98K. Pre-production of the Chiang Kai-shek rifle started in August 1935. It was later renamed the Type Zhongzheng and was in full-scale production as early as late 1935. It was designated the Type 79 by the Chinese Communists and would often have the ideograph of Chiang defaced by them. Although the Hanyang 88 rifle was produced in greater numbers than the Type Zhongzheng, the full standardization of the Type Zhongzheng rifle only started during the Second Sino-Japanese War. In a 10-year period, over 500,000 weapons were produced. The weapon's last major war was in Korea. Service history. The weapons served as one of the main battle rifles for the Chinese National Revolutionary Army. Like the Karabiner 98K, it was a shortened and lightened version of the Gewehr 98, specifically a copy of the Obendorf export Mauser named Standard Model of 1933, which was sold to China in some quantities and provided to Chiang's best troops before the Germans provided the tooling to make the Type 24 in China. The quality of the weapon varied from arsenal to arsenal, but all German-made standard models of 1933 and 1934 pattern were first-rate except for some 98K Mauser's factory rejects which China bought after the Wehrmacht refused them. Some Chinese-made Type 24s were of excellent quality while others were crudely made. Although it entered service in 1935, China's limited industrial capacity meant that it was built in relatively low numbers. As the war progressed, however, China's industry in western cities like Chongqing and Kunming allowed more and more of these rifles to be produced. Production was largely unaffected during the bombing of Chongqing because many of the machines had been moved underground. Roughly speaking, during the war, the rifle was only used by the non-German trained units of the Central Chinese military, which was the core of the NRA. The German-trained units used a very similar weapon, the Mauser Model 98K carbine. By the 1950s, the Type Zhongzheng rifle was phased out in favor of superior American-made equipment, such as the semi-automatic M1 Garand M1 carbine, and Thompson's submachine gun for the Nationalists. The Type Zhongzheng rifle is still used by the ROC Army as a ceremonial parade rifle to this very day. The major advantage of the Type Zhongzheng over the Arasaka was that it had better stopping power with the use of 8mm Mauser rounds. The rifle also had a better rate of fire and a greater range than the Arasaka. The weapon was shorter when compared with the Gewehr 98 and the Arasaka Type 38. A total of between 500,000 and 600,000 weapons were produced between 1935 and 1945. The rifle saw its last war in the hands of the People's, the Volunteer Army against UN forces during the Korean War, together with the Mauser C-96 handgun and the M35 helmet. These weapons have become recognizable features of the Generalissimo's National Revolutionary Army and the Chinese Army during China's turbulent, early 20th century. In an ironic twist, the rifle, although named after Chiang Kai-shek and used by his nationalists, was also used by the Communists during the Chinese Civil War. Chinese Sergeant Tung Chi-ye claimed to have shot and killed over 100 Imperial Japanese Army soldiers using a Chiang Kai-shek rifle with and without a scope in the Yangtze area. The rifle can have a HY-1935 bayonet attached, replacing the Dadao. Some divisions and guerrilla militias who did not receive any modern weapons continued using the Dadao for close combat. The Chinese People's Militia and smaller local paramilitaries were using Chiang Kai-shek rifles up until 1980, before it became a supplemental, ceremonial weapon for the People's Liberation Army to the present day. Many of these rifles were used by various Red Guard factions during the Cultural Revolution in the mid to late 1960s. Variants. There are two variants of Chiang Kai-shek rifle. The Type 1 has a longer barrel and foregrip. The Type 2 has a shorter barrel and foregrip with a turned-down bolt handle.